Here we go. Hey, welcome everybody to the training today. So we're talking some eBay, as we always do on Tuesday. And I want to start out with just a general question to you guys who are here live with us. I want to talk about just sort of why we start with retail drop shipping so often. Okay, so usually the process is this, right? Number one, learn some of the basics. So that would be like, set up PayPal, set up eBay, learn the basics of how to create a listing, etc. Okay. Then number two, in most cases, try to list an item from home if you've got it. That's an optional, but it is an assignment that I like you to do if you've got some things from home. And then we immediately rush you into retail drop shipping. Why do we go there next, guys? Most of you guys here that are with me live, and I'm scrolling through the names, there's about 30 of you here. Well, why do we get into retail drop shipping directly after that? Well, because it's easy. That's a good point. I'll put that down. It's easy to start that way. No applications, no experience, right? You don't need any applications or experience. I guess then I should say registrations as well. Okay. In our experience, it's probably the fastest way to start seeing some revenue. Okay. It's just a good starting point for the vast majority of you guys, which is why we do that. And when we start retail drop shipping, usually what do we tell you to do? We tell you to start with major retailers, right? Give me some examples of major retailers. Right, these would be household name type retailers. Sure, Walmart is one. What else? Amazon, Target, maybe Overstock, maybe Wayfair, Hayneedle. Right, these are major companies, right? Kohl's, etc. We could go on and on. Why is it, guys, that we start with these ones? Have you thought about that? Have you noticed that we don't go into discovering unique, less used retailers? I mean, if you think about it, we teach everybody here in our program that comes through our doors to start with these companies. So in essence, in some ways, we create a little competition even amongst our own clients. Now, I use the word competition very loosely, and I'll tell you why. How many products does Walmart have or Amazon have? Hundreds of thousands to millions, right? That's not an exaggeration. Millions of products. Amongst all these retailers, we've got millions of different individual items. So it's hard for me to believe that there's really all that much competition. If every single client of mine all used Walmart, there's enough subsections and products within Walmart that I think there's not going to be a lot of competition. Is it possible you guys could list a few of the same items? It is possible. It's just not that likely. Okay? So that could be a potential drawback for having you guys start with these major retailers. But answer the question for me. Why do we start with those? Why don't we go out and find like wholesale drop shippers or super unique products from really unique retailers? Why are we starting with the major ones? Well, it's for a lot of the same reasons why we talked about number 3. They're easy to work with, these companies. These are proven companies. Okay, I mean, these have been great suppliers for my clients for years and years and years. Prices are pretty good. Truthfully, when you're using major discount retail stores, your prices are pretty good. Shipping is cheap. Have you ever tried to buy a product at Walmart and looked at their shipping policy versus a product at a lesser known, smaller retailer. The shipping often isn't even comparable. You can get much cheaper shipping from a major retailer because they have struck a deal with the major shipping providers out there. Because they do such vast quantity of sales, they can strike a deal through FedEx or the post office or UPS, and they can ship for a lot cheaper than you and I can ship if we go down to FedEx and pay for a retail package, right? The volume brings down their cost, and therefore they pass a lot of those savings onto the customer. A lot of those lesser known, not so high volume sellers out there can't do the same thing. That's a real advantage. Shipping is truly very cheap when you're using major retailers. And some of you guys who later go on to use wholesale drop shippers can attest to this, that it really is an advantage to get the cheap shipping from these companies. Great return policies. Major retailers take back almost anything, and they're very easy to work with when it comes to returns. How about product selection? Right? Huge selection at these companies. So you're able to test out a lot of different areas. Guys, those are some of the major reasons, and there's probably more. We won't exhaust this list, but I think that's enough for you guys to see there. There is a reason why we recommend that. And even knowing that many of you guys are using some of the same suppliers, I don't care, because they're so big and there's so many advantages. That's where I would prefer you to learn. Now, let's fast forward a few weeks, okay? So let's pretend for a second you guys have adopted this strategy, right? Let's say you've got between 100 and 200 products active, right? Maybe you've only closed 6 or 7 sales or whatever it is. What now? Okay? Where is step 5 on this list? Where are we moving at that point? Well, there's a couple of different paths, but I'm going to ask you guys, are any of you guys in that boat where you've got over 100 listings, maybe even a couple hundred, you've closed a few sales, but things aren't really moving along that fast? How many of you guys have felt that way before? I know some of you haven't. I know some of you guys here, and I'm looking at your names right now, are doing great and probably don't feel like they've plateaued at all. Others I know have plateaued. Right? You close a few sales, you get some momentum, and then it slows down a little bit. Or you're just not making enough sales to make it feel like it's worth your time. Sometimes it's that, Shannon, right? Sometimes life gets in the way. You don't have as much time to work on it. You've got too much on your plate. You just need to focus. That's true too. But what happens next? What is the next plan of action here? Can I make some suggestions? 1, find wholesale suppliers that drop ship. Right? You don't have to always use retail drop shipping. I hope we make that clear in our trainings. Go and find some wholesale suppliers that do drop shipping. Now, these are difficult to find, no doubt. And I feel a need to do more trainings in this regard because they are difficult to find. But hey, if you can get some better prices, why not, right? They're just hard to find. And I'm going to put this in caps. Hard to find, okay? I'm not going to get into too much detail on that one tonight. Number 2, carry some inventory. Now, I know some of you shudder at the thought of carrying inventory. You don't want to do it. You don't think it's for you. I get that. I really do. But guys, I'm not talking about carrying large quantities of inventory and covering your whole entire floor of your house with boxes and getting deliveries every other day and having to go down to the post office to ship stuff out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a few small items from AliExpress.com and starting. Let me tell you about one of my clients. He's been working with me for a long time, mainly just doing retail drop shipping. In fact, almost exclusively doing retail drop shipping. That's his gig. And he's found some pretty solid retail suppliers and has made really pretty decent money doing it. He's had to switch gears though, and he's wanted to get involved in some other avenues to make money online. So for the past month, we've been working on strategy number 2 here. And over the past month, he's sourced products, tried some different strategies, and he's making somewhere in the neighborhood of a grand total of $30 a day. Now, I know none of you are really all that impressed by that. Nobody's really impressed by $30 a day. But, do a little math on it. That's profit. So he's making $30 a day profit. He's making 4 or 5 sales a day on it. So he's not making a ton per sale. But he's making multiple sales a day. And this is only after a month. But do the math on it. Right? $30. He's making a little over $200 a week. Times that by 52. That's still 11 grand a year. Right? He's making about $1,000 a month at $30 a day. I mean, if you break it down that way, all of a sudden $30 a day doesn't sound so bad. That's after a month. Okay? And that's not anything to speak of. We're not throwing a big party like he's this raving success. But he's taken a step in that direction at $30 a day. I'm not gonna get into detail on this strategy today, but I would encourage you guys to consider that as an option. You don't have to front tons of money to do it, but it certainly is an option. Think about it. Okay. All right. Number 3, and this is what I want to focus on in a little more detail tonight. Find new, less known retail suppliers. Okay? How do we do that? Well, let me give you an example. Okay? Let's say, just for the sake of an example, and this is just coming right off the top of my head, we're going back to this example. You've got 1 to 200 products that are active, 6 to 7 sales so far. Please learn from your sales. If you've got 6 to 7 sales, look at what is selling. Maybe 2 or 3 of those this time of year, are outdoor furniture, right? It's spring, so I've got that on my mind. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, look at what's trending with your own data. Okay, that could be sales, views, or watchers. Learn from it. Okay? If you're seeing that you're selling a few outdoor sets, maybe some bistro sets, consider not just using the major retailers, consider finding those somewhere else. And so, it really is as simple as this. You go to Google, you type in bistro set furniture. Do a Google search, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start looking for some suppliers that I haven't used before. Now, a lot of the first page here is dominated by the major players. Home Depot is there, Overstock is there, Wayfair is there, Walmart, Target, Amazon, Kmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Sears, worldmarket.com. Now, if you don't know who World Market is, you might consider clicking in on this site and taking a quick peek at some of their collections. The idea here is we're looking for lesser known companies that carry a product that's maybe a little bit more unique and isn't so saturated on eBay. A lot of the major retailers' products are a bit more saturated. So if you find yourself having trouble making sales, one of the first levers that I would consider pulling is discovering new, lesser known, and subsequently lesser used retail drop shippers. And for example, I would look at this site, consider their inventory, look at their policies. If I'm not familiar with how they do shipping or what their returns policy is, or I'm not sure if they do any gift drop shipping, I might even call their customer service or check their policies page. I'm going to take a few minutes to learn about this supplier, and then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try it. I'm going to list some of their products, and I'm going to try out their stuff. And then I'm going to go back out to Google, and I'm going to find some other suppliers. I can't tell you how many of you that are really not very good at retail drop shipping. You get stuck in this rut where you're using the same supplier, and you can't catch a break. You're not finding any products that sell, and then you don't change anything. You just do the same thing over and over and over again, right? I know there's an element of patience involved, and there should be, and I can't expect that every single item that you put up for sale is going to sell. But if you've given a lot of stuff, time and energy over the first couple of months and you're not seeing a lot of results, or maybe on the other hand, you're seeing quite a few things go out of stock, you really seriously should consider doing exactly what I'm explaining here. Look at what is working. Look at what is getting some views, watchers, or sales, and go out there and start hunting down some suppliers that you're not so familiar with. Have you ever heard of OsmondDesignFurniture.com? That's a listing right here. Let's go ahead and click on that. Not a supplier that I've used. Likely not a real popular one out there on eBay. Could be. But I can come in here and shop their products, see if they've got any outdoor stuff. I don't see a lot of outdoor stuff. I see living room, dining, bedroom, entertainment. See if I can go patio furniture. I'll do a search there. See if they've got anything for the patio or deck. This was a paid ad I clicked on from Google. Sometimes these aren't my favorite ones to do. It's taking too long to load here. Yeah, they've got a few things. Looks like some outdoor stuff right here. So I might look through their stuff, right? I'm not saying every one of these is going to be an amazing supplier, but it's worth trying some different ones. I'm telling you, my best clients, and seriously, if you take nothing away from what I say tonight, at least consider this. My very best clients eventually graduate out of all the retail drop shipping stuff from the mainstream ones that not always completely, but some of them do. And they end up finding their own unique set of retail suppliers that everybody else isn't using. And that's got some inherent advantages, doesn't it? That allows you to potentially be the exclusive seller on eBay. Therefore, if you're priced a lot higher, it doesn't hurt you as much, because if somebody looks around for the same set on eBay, they may not be able to find it because you're the only one selling it, right? It allows you to sell something that's truly unique and not multiplied over 18 times. Now you may say, well, why don't we start doing this if there's so many advantages? Why don't we do this before we do, normal major retailers? And I just would argue this is a little more advanced. It takes a little more time to be able to recognize a unique product. You're going to have to learn the policies. Sometimes their shipping isn't as flexible and inexpensive. Sometimes their return policies aren't as good. That's the only downside I can think of this. So, here's one that I haven't heard of before. This is a backyard store. Bunch of stuff listed here that looks like it's discounted a little bit. You guys get the point, right? Use Google and hunt down some better, more specific suppliers and reap the benefits. There are lots of advantages. No, we don't teach this right off the bat. We'd like you guys to learn off of easier suppliers. And yes, you can still be making sales off of Amazon, Walmart, Target, and so on and so forth. But eventually, sooner rather than later, if you're struggling at all, you need to venture out and try some different retail suppliers. And that could very well be your saving grace. You may find some sellers that nobody else is putting up onto eBay, and you start cleaning house, and that could be what saves the business if you're struggling. And I know some of you guys are shaking your head yes, because I know some of you have done it. You know who you are. You're using this strategy right now, and it's working. You were glad to use major retailers because that's how you learn, but you were also glad to later get off onto some of your own. And so many of you guys come to me directly and say, Trevor, tell me what to sell. And I suppose I could tell you a product and a supplier, but at the same time, you have to remember that, I've worked with a lot of you guys over the years, and I'm not going to give up what's working for you. If you tell me you've got a great supplier and you've got a certain product that's selling, I'm not going to go blab that out to my next client. And nor should I. That wouldn't be right. So you'll notice a lot of times I speak in generalities. I teach you the general process here. I expect you to implement it and try it. And don't tell me it doesn't work until you've done it a whole bunch of times. I guess my last little note here that I should add to what we're saying here is please have some patience with the strategy. You need to have some patience. Some of the guys that I follow online that talk a lot about business strategy say that, some of the characteristics that, really successful entrepreneurs have versus ones that don't revolve around this idea of patience. Because they're willing to work hard and then wait for it, and they realize that you don't work hard today and always get paid tomorrow. There's a little bit of patience involved. So don't throw out the strategy yet. Some of you guys are teetering on the edge of like, do I want to keep doing retail drop shipping? Consider what we've discussed tonight and consider this alternative right here. Now, I suggested some other alternatives. I said, well, maybe some inventory, maybe some wholesale suppliers, but I really want to emphasize this number 3 more because a lot of you guys don't do it. So consider it, okay? Okay, I'm not going to belabor this anymore. There's a couple of questions. I'll take them, and then we'll finish up. Let's see. I actually don't think Costco is okay because they've got a membership type policy. If you're reselling their stuff, I think that goes against their membership rules. So I don't think so, but you'll have to check with them. Yeah, Shannon, there are a lot of goodwill, sort of like bargain hunter eBayers out there. It's a different type of hustle, that's for sure. Some people get the thrill of finding something at a thrift store or on a discount rack for, pennies on the dollar of what they can sell it for, and that's fine. That's not really my cup of tea as much, so you don't hear me teach that as much. But I've definitely done thrifting and garage selling type stuff to learn the strategy, and there's money in it. It's just, that's a lot of work. It's hard to scale. It's hard to scale because, you've got to go out there and find the stuff all the time. You're constantly hustling to go find new product, but it's a strategy for sure. And I do like some of those eBayers. I know who you're talking about because I've watched a lot of their stuff. And I've no doubt a lot of them make some pretty good money. I find the vast majority of my clients don't like it, though. They don't like to go out garage sailing, but it's very doable. I mean, as long as you've got a smartphone and you can go out there, and while you're out there at a thrift store or a garage sale, you can be looking stuff up on your eBay app to see what it's worth versus what the thrift store or the garage sale is willing to pay. It's a doable strategy, sure. What ratio between eBay and your website, Hurley? I'm not sure if I totally understand. Ratio of what? Like time spent, hours worked, money made? What ratio are we talking about here? Yeah, Shannon, to follow up on your thought, they are crazy about it. They love it, which is why I love to watch some of these people. It's always fun and interesting to listen to somebody who's passionate about something, isn't it? And while I'm not the kind of guy that wants to get up and hunt down products out there locally, look, more power to those people who do like it. I respect it, and I think it's kind of a cool strategy. Just not my cup of tea, not my forte. To answer your question, Hurley, how do you decide and allot time between the two? It's a hard question to answer, and I can't answer it in a general sense. What I will say, doing the best I can in a general sense, is that you're going to spend your time where your money is. If you're actually pulling in some decent revenue on eBay, spend more of your time there. The website is a longer investment. I feel it takes a little extra time to get going because you're responsible for marketing, and that takes a little bit of time. Um, Long term, your website's got more upside. So while it may be a little tougher to get going, you can make more money on it, and there's the opportunity to always sell your website, for 2, 3, 4 times earnings, and actually make some money there too. So I don't know. We'd have to play that on a case by case basis. That's certainly a tough question to answer. Guys, with that said, I'm going to finish up. I hope this was instructive and helpful. It gives you a little bit more of a game plan here. If you find yourself, like we talked about in this section here, 100 to 200 products, 6 to 7 sales, more or less, plus or minus, what do I do now? How do I get off the plateau? What are some of my options? Well, there you go. Try some of these. Work with your coach on them. Okay. Okay. Well, good. Well, everybody have a great week. I'll see you next week for some more eBay training. Thanks for sticking around.